closed.
All right, hello everyone. This is
Hi,
Emily. It looks like we have enough people in attendance for a quorum. So whenever you would like to start the meeting, Dave, feel free to call the meeting to order.
We'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda will be the hearing of the public. Is there anyone on that wants to speak on any issue from the public? Give it 1 second call. Anyone from the public want to speak on an issue before us? Okay, Emily, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, so the next thing on our agenda is the Transportation Improvement Program. So I know we have a few people here from central office. I believe Brandon Leach is going to start talking about the fiscal constraint charts.
Thank you, Emily. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So in all, we had a total of 7 administrative modifications and 1 amendment. And I'm just going to highlight really the, if you're looking at the chart, administrative modifications 5, 6, and 7, as well as amendment 1. So the administrative modifications 5 and 6 are to the Erie MPO 2021 tip to increase the Hammett Road, Oliver Road intersection construction phase, $450,000 in federal CMAQ funds and $93,247 in federal STP funds were added to federal fiscal year 2021. $806,753 in federal STP funds were added in federal fiscal year 2022. And the US 20 Chestnut Street to Imperial Parkway project and various deobligations were used as funding sources. This was part of a CPDM item that was approved on April 13th of 2021. And in addition to that is also administrative modification number 7, which is part of the same CPDM item. That is to increase the US 20 Chestnut to Imperial Parkway construction phase, which was part of the previous administrative modifications. $335,012 in state 581 funds were added to federal fiscal year 2023. $415,000 in federal STP funds and $34,488 in state 581 funds were added to federal fiscal year 2024. The US 6 underpass in Springfield Township project and the Erie Highway Bridge line item were used as funding sources for that project as well. And moving on to the bottom of the chart would be the amendment we had. There's a little explanation to go into this one. This was an amendment to the US 20 Zook to Chestnut resurfacing project, which was adding it to the Erie 2021 tip as an early action project for the MPMS project 99729, which is the US 20 Zook to Chestnut Street project, basically taking the project, splitting it into 2 separate ones. But in order to do this, we had to do an amendment to add it to the tip. So in all, $1,447,000 in federal NHPP funds and $463,347 in state 581 funds were added to the construction phase in federal fiscal year 2021, and $1,033,000 in federal NHPP funds and $156,653 in state 581 funds were added to the construction phase in federal fiscal year 2022. So basically, it's taking the funds from that first project, putting it onto this one to be done in this summer and next summer. And then the second project, the second half will be that project for MPMS 99729. This was a PMC item that was e-routed and received PMC approval on April 23rd of 2021 of this year. And the item is still pending ESTIP approval. It did recently receive the MPO approval as of Monday, I believe. And so we should be able to have that fully approved pending that ESTIP approval. And I don't know, Emma, if you wanted to show the two items, the CPDM and the, and the
yeah,
PMC
let me
items.
just go through this really fast.
Okay. Sure.
So this is the vote tally that we had. So technically, this is the coordinating committee who voted. So this will be entered in officially to the coordinating committee meeting minutes. But for everyone who did vote, thank you very much, who is here today on the TAC. This is the results of that e-ballot that went out for that amendment that Brandon just described so well. So with that amendment, there were CPDM items, which are more descriptive of what is going on. So these are available if you would like more information about those specific items. There were 2 CPDMs. There was the Hammett Road, Oliver Road intersection, and then one for this 26th Street project. So there were 2. If anyone hasn't seen these or would like more information or has questions, feel free to ask them now about these 2 changes. All right, hearing none. Brandon, are you continuing with FCC charts?
Nope, that's all I wanted to highlight today.
All right.
If there are any other questions, I'm open for those as well.
Are there any other questions for Brandon? All right, hearing none. I will turn it over to Kevin McCullough, who is going to talk about some federal funding issues on our agenda.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Hold on here, let me see something here, let me make sure.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, yeah, I just want to, can you?
Yes.
Okay, good,
We
good,
can
thank
hear
you.
Kevin.
Okay,
Thanks.
appreciate it. Okay, just make sure I got the right mute, unmute there. Okay, very
Always
good.
important.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, everyone, and good morning. I'll go over a few agenda items here. We'll talk a little bit about federal funding, and then I'll cover some highlights with regards to the TIP update. I know it's hard to believe, but it seems like we just got out of our 2021 TIP update, and already plans are underway and activities are underway for the 2023 program update. The Erie MPO will be discussing that very shortly here, and you'll be seeing scheduled meetings, and there'll be talks of updating and getting ready for that, for preparing that draft 2023 TIP moving into late summer and into the fall of this year. So it's right around the corner that we'll be developing that draft TIP. So I just want to talk a little bit about where we are with federal funding, on the federal funding side. And then I'll talk a little bit about where we are on the state funding, state funding perspective as well. So as many of you know, we're currently operating under a 1-year extension of the FAST Act. obviously, we're hoping that a new multi-year transportation reauthorization bill comes about sometime in the near future here, because that will technically, this extension will run out in September 2021. There's a lot of proposals out there that are getting mixed up with reauthorization and other infrastructure bills that are kind of getting mixed in with reauthorization. The hope is that we get to a reauthorization bill, but we're not sure what shape this is all going to take at the federal level. So there's a lot of conflicting interests in place. We're hearing talks about an infrastructure bill that is not a reauthorization bill. And we're also hearing about a true reauthorization bill, which gets us to our highway bridges and transit funding. And hopefully they can kind of sort that all out. And obviously, you know, on the federal funding side, it'd be great to have a reauthorization bill. If we don't get there, obviously we could possibly see some extensions in the fall, but I would say pay attention to the news. There's a lot of moving parts right now, and hopefully within the next month or two, things will come into focus on the federal side of things. Been talk about, you know, we haven't had a federal gas tax increase since 1993. We're seeing increased use of electric and hybrid vehicles. So obviously, you know, gas mileage is increasing on vehicles. They're not using as much fuel. You know, there's talk about going away from gas taxes. And so I don't think there's much appetite at the federal level to increase gasoline taxes. And even the state of Pennsylvania has indicated that we're looking more toward mileage-based, you know, as a possible option with regards to funding our infrastructure. So again, we'll see where that goes. Also on the federal level, we've been hearing a lot about congressional earmarks. We have been out of the earmarking game for close to 10 years now, but the earmarks have reared their head again. And I think, again, it's one of those ways to really get legislators interested in infrastructure and voting for some type of infrastructure bill or a reauthorization bill. So we'll see how this all plays out. Obviously, there's a political divide on whether we should be using earmarks or not using earmarks, but I'm sure you've heard at the local level that they are considering them, and there have been projects that have been pulled together by some of our legislators with regards to that. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that in the future here too, as that comes into focus with regards to whether earmarks will be coming back as part of a reauthorization bill, an infrastructure bill, or whatever shape that takes. So that's kind of where we are on the federal side of things. On the statewide side of things, of course, we have that the Transportation Revenue Options Commission that is looking at funding options, and this would take into account, obviously, you've heard a little bit about the proposal to toll 9 bridges across the state of Pennsylvania, and this is again a look at a possible revenue option for tolling these temporarily while we fix those bridges. These 9 bridges have been identified as large cost bridges that we don't currently have the revenue in place to fix those bridges. So we're exploring the tolling option on those. Again, a lot more to come along the road here. We'll see. I mean, those right now are being delivered through our P3 funding option, which gives us the option to use the P3 board to move forward with that. There's been talk in the legislature and about blocking that. So we'll see where that goes. I know there's a hearing. I believe there was a hearing this morning at 9 o'clock discussing that in Harrisburg. So and I believe that was on one of our government government channels, live, like a C-SPAN kind of thing. And I think there was a live broadcast of that. I'm not sure exactly where that was. I don't have a link to that, but anyway, just be aware that those talks are going on right now. So part of that PennDOT Pathways initiative is really the governor said, hey, you know, I want to assemble a committee that really is a all-encompassing committee with private and government officials and really look at exploring long-term highway, bridge, and multimodal needs, and coming up with possibly some maybe creative ideas on how we can fund infrastructure moving forward. So that's kind of where we are on with the state. Now I'll jump quickly into the TIP update. I briefly discussed the schedule of where we are and where we're going with that. Currently, the things that are underway right now are financial guidance. There is a work group in place that is looking at financial guidance. They assemble every 2 years prior to the TIP update, and they take a look at the federal funding and the state funding and look at needs and kind of take a strategic look at where we are. And they determine the formulas, which really kind of determine how the funding that we receive from the federal government and that we receive from the motor license fund within Pennsylvania, how those are distributed throughout the state. And that would be how they are funded to the individual MPOs and RPOs. And then in turn, that also lets us know how much each of those individual engineering districts working with those MPOs and RPOs will have to work on infrastructure over the next 4 years as part of that draft TIP and part of that TIP that goes into play. We also have general procedure guidance work group that is ongoing right now as well, and their task is to really look at our procedures with everything from how we manage TIP modifications to how we basically develop the TIP, how we work with our partners. It identifies roles and responsibilities and integrates in long-range transportation planning, the 12-year program process, and obviously that TIP update process. So it's kind of like an overarching umbrella policy, which we use to work with all of our partners to update the transportation improvement program every 2 years. So we visit that every 2 years as well. Part of that is that MOU, which each of the individual MPOs and RPOs also look at and customize to what their needs are. And that memorandum of understanding is really between PennDOT, Federal Highways, FTA, and the planning partner, which would be the MPO and RPO. And that really determines how we modify, amend, revise that TIP on a day-to-day basis. So you just heard Brandon talk through some administrative modifications. That MOU is really in place, and that's an agreement amongst all those partners on how we amend and present and approve any changes to that TIP document, which is part of the overall STIP, which is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, which is what Federal Highways recognizes. Let's see. I think that's everything. I don't know if there were any questions. I covered a lot of material, but I don't know if there were any questions or if you need any clarification on anything, or if there's anybody else that has any insight into what I just went over as well. Okay, great. Okay, yep. I think if I covered everything on the agenda, I'll turn it back over to you, Emily.
All right, I did see that Brandon put a link in the chat box to the TROC page for the Transportation Revenue Options Committee. So that is helpful if you have any more information about that topic. So
yes, yep, that's a good reference. There's a lot of information on that site. The Talk PA Transportation site regarding the 12-year program and the TIP update has a lot of reference material on it as well, as does that PennDOT Pathways website. But yes, the TROC, that'll give you the membership. There's videos on there and recordings of all the meetings that have occurred, plus some supporting material. So if you have any other more detailed interest, go ahead and dive into that. There's a lot of information out there on those websites.
And actually, Kevin, I got an email yesterday that there are going to be more earmarks from the Senate, from the federal side of things. Do you have any insights into that, or if there will be PennDOT guidance on what we can use the Senate earmarks for?
That's a great question. I saw that as well, and I would say that as PennDOT, from a PennDOT perspective, we're here to support the MPOs and RPOs and the legislators in providing good earmark projects, and we're certainly here to help out with that. We won't. The guidance will come directly from the Senate. From the Senate and the House, representatives. They'll actually work with the planning partners, the MPOs and RPOs, in assembling some of those projects. I know we had an exercise down the Pittsburgh area recently where we pulled some of that together, and I would imagine if there's going to be a Senate push for those types of projects, I don't know if they're going to be the same projects, different projects. I would say we'll look for guidance from them. I was encouraged by the guidance that came out before. For the initial earmarks, in the fact that they were projects that were active, they were on the tip, they weren't just projects that were out there. The idea being, where we had challenges before with earmarks is that we would receive an earmark for a project that was only partially funded, or maybe wasn't even on a long-range transportation plan, let alone our 12-year program or our tip. And it really challenged us to deliver that project when it was only partially funded. So I think the good thing here so far, the guidance that I've seen has been very common sense. It's looking at projects that are on the tip that can be delivered and or obligated within a 1.5-year time frame or so. There's also limits on the amount of funding that's being requested. So the good thing here is that if projects are indeed selected and they are on the program, that's good, because then that frees up that funding for us to advance other projects that are priorities within the area too. So it's a good thing to see that money, if it does in fact become real, if it does come into the tip, it would be able to allow us to deliver projects that are right there and that are ready to go. And then we can advance some of those other priorities that we haven't been able to advance because of some of the financial constraints that we've been seeing recently. So hopefully that combination, along with maybe some additional federal funding, could be a positive as far as infrastructure goes within the various regions throughout the state. So stay tuned on that.
Emily, Derek Martin here. Senator Toomey is adamantly against earmarks, so be only one senator that would be in play in Pennsylvania if that happens. The other thing I was told is the original legislation from the House, projects had to be completed in a year. So FYI.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Okay, yep. If there are no other questions, Emily, we're good. And if there's any other follow-ups, is there any information that you need, just let Emily know. She can get to us, and again, anything you would need from District 1 or from PennDOT Central Office, we'll be happy to provide that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is the $5 local use fee bridge projects. So before we get into the COCWA vote, Tim, do you want to give a brief update on the Leet Road project?
Sure, I can, Emily. Just within the last couple of weeks, we've had the soil testings, the drilling and sampling and coring done. Just got that back from Cernica Engineering last week. We have had discussions with the 4 property owners adjacent to the project for easement, construction easement work. And that is where we are running into some difficulties. They like it the way it is. They don't see the need for a bridge repair. So we are working on that. I believe 2 out of the 4 will be signing the easement. The other 2 we're going to slowly work on a little bit more, but right now we're kind of in a holding pattern. Mark Corey, our engineer, is also just waiting for some more engineered drawings that we should be able to submit to Emily and Josh Montgomery probably within the next couple weeks. I believe I kind of covered what we discussed yesterday. Emily, does that sound right?
It appears that Emily somehow is not on the meeting anymore.
Oh.
I'm not exactly sure what happened, so I will work on that while we move forward.
Okay, we'll wait and see if Emily can get reattached here. Can you hear me? It's Dave.
Yes, Dave.
Okay. Okay, I think Emily wanted to move into
Did we lose Mayor Mitchell?
can you
We
hear
can't.
me? Honey?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
I'm having trouble with my microphone. I think Emily might have had some other information about the Parkway Bridge. John, do you have anything else to add? John, do you have anything else to add?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay.
I can summarize. When we started this thing, our original thinking was to include a existing bridge rehabilitation option in the feasibility study and build that access road that we all voted and approved, thinking that made sense. So we could include the rehabilitation option as part of the study and have time to do that. Well, when we introduced the access road idea to the general public, or to the neighborhood, it was outrage and unanimous opposition to the access road as an idea. So then we took a much closer look at the existing structure, and with our own team plus a consulting engineer, really determined that it's a real long shot to rehabilitate that structure. It's in really poor condition. So to include it on a feasibility study is almost a waste of time, because it's not a feasible option. And we have reports to that effect. So because the neighbors were so outraged at the access road idea, and we actually floated a survey as well to the neighborhood. I sent out 329 surveys to the neighborhood, and so far I've received 200 of them back, which is amazing. It's a 61% response rate, which you don't get on surveys, but that shows the passion in that neighborhood. And 88% of those that I received in return concur with the immediate demolition of the structure. The thing is, we either need to demolish the structure to remove the safety threat, or build the access road in case we need it. So one or the other. They're opposed to the access road unanimously. So that, and the fact that, oh, okay, there I am again. The fact that we have neighborhood concurrence on the immediate demolition and they do not want the access road, it makes sense now to change our plan to, instead of the access road, move to immediate demolition. So what I'll be asking for today on a vote is to reprogram the money that was approved for the access road to immediate demolition. And then going forward, once the bridge is gone and the safety threat is gone, and the site is stabilized, we'll study what option is to come in the future, whether it be no bridge, a pedestrian only bridge, or a vehicular bridge with enhanced sidewalks. The survey that I sent out had a second question to that effect. And so far of the 200 I received, 7% said no bridge, 39% said pedestrian only bridge, and 54% said vehicle bridge with enhanced sidewalks, which is a clear winner. So we're going to float the question out there, perhaps, that we don't even fund the $75,000 feasibility study and move right to the construction of a vehicle bridge with enhanced sidewalks. That'll be another vote for another time, I think. Right now, I'd just like to vote to reprogram the money from the demolition, or from the access road to the immediate demolition.
Okay, is there anyone else that has comments? Can you hear me? It's Dave. John, do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm having all kinds of mic problems. Any other comments from anyone?
I think the committee
Bill Kuhn here.
Yes, Bill.
Okay, if you take that bridge out, it was my understanding that there was a whole mess of houses back there that wouldn't be able to get in and out. Is that correct?
The Ravine Drive goes under the bridge in question, and that's an only access to the Erie Yacht Club and the 20 or so houses on Ferncliff.
Yeah, it's the houses on Ferncliff that I'm asking about.
Yeah, what we would do during the bridge does not lead to them. You have to go under the bridge to get to those houses. So during the demolition process, which we're told could take anywhere between 1 to 5 days, probably 1 or 2 days, that bridge would be gone. And what we would do is the Erie Yacht Club agreed to close for 2 days if need be. And I would require the contractor to provide a shuttle service through the work area to get the Ferncliff people. They could park their cars at the top of the hill and then be shuttled back and forth for those 1 or 2 days while the bridge is being demolished. And then the same for fire and emergency vehicles. They would have to have access through there. The contractor couldn't just blow it up on the ground. He'd have to do sort of a controlled demolition. So if a fire truck had to come through or a Ferncliff shuttle had to come through, they could get through.
Okay. I was concerned about all of that because, you block a bunch, 20, 25 people's houses, that could be a major issue.
That's right. We'll coordinate all that. And I submitted a report, and I think Emily put it in the submittal material. So you can read all about it. All those questions are answered in there.
Okay. All righty. With that, I'll move to go ahead and allow that to happen.
Okay, and do we have a second on that motion? Do we have a second?
Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion before we move on to the vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
And John, you and Emily firm up the motion in the language, okay?
That was my next question. What exactly was the motion? It was, in my opinion, it was right now just to reprogram the access road funding to demolition funding.
Correct.
And the part about the feasibility study, we'll iron that out later if we still need one or not.
Yeah. Well, let's restate that, John, so that Bill can, you know, he's made the motion, just restate it.
Okay, I would say the motion would be to reprogram, motion to reprogram the approved access road funding for the Cocqua Bridge, reprogram it to demolition of the Cocqua Bridge.
Okay, and Bill, you're good with that?
Yes.
And Tim, were you the second?
Yes, sir.
You good with it?
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion?
And then we'll return to the feasibility study question at a later date.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? Motion carries. So
Are you
Emily,
okay, Emily, with that wording?
Yes,
We're
I'm
okay.
sorry,
Are we okay with returning to the feasibility study question at a later date?
yes, I think
Okay.
that makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
I'm sorry I got kicked off the internet there for a moment, so I missed the introduction. So technically, as this is the technical advisory committee, was this a coordinating committee vote that was taking place at the TAC? Or would there be another vote needed to maybe advance to an e-ballot so we can get this moving with the coordinating committee? Because the TAC doesn't have the power to officially allocate these funds.
right. Why don't you do an e-vote so that John can move ahead?
Okay.
Is there anyone opposed to that idea? Hearing no opposition, then move ahead with an e-vote so that we have it ready to report at the MPO meeting. But John will be able to move ahead then.
okay. One last thing I'm waiting for as well is a Penndot concurrence on this from the bridge unit and Mark Bradle and those guys. I sent them all this documentation, and they requested a few adjustments on, and I returned that adjusted report to them. So Emily's been my point of contact with Mark Bradle. Do we have anything back on that yet, Emily, or as far as the PennDOT's comment on the idea of the immediate demolition?
I have not. I don't know. The District 1 folks, have you discussed this with Mark Bradle at all?
Hi, good morning. This is Brian Mcnulty. Yes, we've discussed it with him, and in general, seemed like he was in concurrence with that assessment, John, the revised one. So, but just stay tuned for his official response. It should be coming any day now, today or tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
There's a lot of moving parts to this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't have any more questions, and if no one else does, we can move on.
Thank you, John. Emily, you want to move on? You're on mute, Emily. Okay. Okay.
The next item on our agenda is the long-range transportation plan update. So hopefully by now, everyone here knows there is an outreach survey going on to the public to get input for the long-range transportation plan. So here is a flyer describing that input. The first week we had 177 participants, which is not a bad number for the start. So we want to keep this going. If you have social media channels that you can share this on, please do. You can print the flyer, hang it up in your offices, whatever you need to do to get this word out. I am pulling up the map right now of respondents on our wiki map. And as this loads, you will see we have gotten responses mostly from the city of Erie, or the surrounding suburbs. See if these will come up. So there are big chunks of the county we don't have a lot of input from yet. You know, Albion, Cranesville, Conneaut Township, over in the Corey, Wattsburg area. So there's lots of areas we still are missing. So whatever you can do to get the word out, to make sure that people can see this, that is a good thing. We are also going back to our list here. We are also starting drop-in meetings. So our first drop-in meeting, this comes up. Share. Oh, hopefully my internet is still functioning here. So this is the survey. Let me get back. Aha, there we go. We're having drop-in meetings that are starting with Microsoft Teams. So our consultant, WRA, is running these meetings. So our first one is this Friday, and then there are 2 on May 19th. So please share these as well. The 19th morning meeting is just for municipal staff and officials, but municipal staff and officials can come to any of these meetings, and there will be more in the future. These are just our first round to get things going, see how they go. And the last thing is our consultant, WRA, just completed a PowerPoint presentation that we will be able to share on our website and our YouTube page and in all of these conferences. This morning, I emailed it out to the Long Range Transportation Plan Steering Committee. So if you are on that steering committee, could you please look over that presentation and get any comments back to me on that? Or if anyone else on the MPO would like to see that video before it goes live, let me know. I'm happy to share it and get everyone's input. So those are our updates on the Long Range Transportation Plan. Does anyone have any questions for me about this process? All right, hearing none, we can go on to our project updates. So we have a project newsletter that was put together by Penndot District 1. So I believe both Ron Johnson and Tom McClellan are on the call. Ron, is there anything you'd like to highlight in that project newsletter?
Good morning. Thanks, Emily. Morning, everyone. I just had a couple small updates. Just for the Hammett Road and Oliver Road intersection project. The first on the list, you can see down at the bottom that the proposed let date was last week, May 6th. The anticipated notice to proceed is June 21st. So again, that's when you should start seeing some work out there at that site. And then just as, there's lots of moving parts of the Central Bayfront Parkway project, but just last week, May 5th, there was a city council study session held. And if you click on the link there, again, at the bottom, it takes you to the project website, and there's actually a YouTube video. You can watch the recording of that study session. If you're curious about anything that was discussed, there was a lot of question and answers and a really good presentation that was given. So other than that, everything is kind of the same as the last newsletter. So if there's any questions about anything on the newsletter, yeah, feel free to reach out. Again, all of our contact information is at the bottom of the newsletter, the Penndot contacts, that is. So yeah, feel free to reach out there's any questions. That's all I have, Emily, thanks.
Thanks, Ron. And just to elaborate a bit on the Bayfront, there was the study session. It was about 2 hours long and very informative that PennDOT gave to City Council. You can view it on the Erie City's YouTube page as well. The main things that were presented were the peer reviews that were done. So looking at the roundabouts and how many lanes and if they could be shrunk. And the conclusion was yes, they could be shrunk to accommodate more pedestrian access and multimodal access. And then second peer review was of bridges. So looking specifically at that Holland pedestrian bridge and doing basically a short design charrette looking at those possible different designs for that bridge. So those presentations, as well as all of the comments and responses, are on that Bayfront Parkway project website. So they are very interesting if you want to just go to the website and flip through them. Don't know, maybe I can do this right now. Let's see. All right, so hopefully everyone can see Bayfront Parkway project. There is the roundabout peer review workshop and the pedestrian peer review workshop. So just looking at these, there's a lot of good information there. Also the City of Erie YouTube page, the City Council study session was May 6th. So it is a 2 hour long video, but it's there, anyone can watch. So just highlight some of the bridge designs that were presented. You can see some of the things that PennDOT talked about.
Hello, this is Jill.
Yes. All right, so that's your teaser. If you want to know more about these things, they are on the Bayfront Parkway website and you can watch the City Council study session meeting. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Hi, Emily. This is Tom McClellan from PennDOT. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. I mean, there's a lot of good info there, you know, just to see what we presented. And there's about 6 different options for that truss or that pedestrian bridge there. So it's good info. And like I said, none of this is set in stone. And obviously we're looking for maintenance partners for anything that's going to be selected here. But just, you know, we do a lot with roadway projects and regular bridge projects, but we don't get involved too much in some of the aesthetics and some of this stuff, you know. So that's why we have TY Lin International as part of our design team now, you know, taking a look at this peer review. So you can see all these very unique, you know, structures as you're flipping through there, and you know, the colors, you know, all this stuff is still up for discussion. So. And again, this will be part of the final product, this bridge, you know, this is part of phase 1, this pedestrian structure. I mean, every time we've went out to the public, we've heard that this is a crucial part of the project, not just the roundabouts. So, you know, the pedestrian bridge and connecting the east side has been a hot topic. So it's definitely part of the project. We just want to make sure you know, we hear sometimes like, well, if you know, funding doesn't come through, what are you going to cut first? Well, it's not going to be this bridge because that's what we hear about. So.
Dave, are you saying something? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Emily?
Yes.
Okay, my Am I back on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Tom, I'm saying the covered aspect of the bridge would be very important due to our weather. So I don't know how that is moving forward.
I think I had a little trouble hearing you, Dave, but I think you're talking about the covering of the
Yes.
bridge.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, that is an important aspect, and it depends on, who's going to maintain it really. Obviously with wind, rain, snow, and you get some pretty nasty winds off the lake and the snow blows all different directions. So one thing to think about too is, there's nowhere else that the pedestrian is going to be sheltered or covered along these Bayfront trails. So it might not make sense to cover them for just this, this 100-foot crossing basically. So, we're still looking into that. And again, it's going to come down to the person that's ultimately going to be responsible for maintenance too, what some of their, if they need to, how they're going to maintain it. So.
That's one question we would have at the city if we wind up with the maintenance responsibilities of that. Yes, it's true that the rest of the trail isn't covered, but we can remove snow and maintain the trail. But if the bridge isn't accommodating to snow removal equipment, or doesn't have a place to blow snow except off the bridge and down onto traffic, we would want that bridge maybe enclosed in some fashion to keep the snow off the bridge if we can't remove the snow. But on the trail, we can always remove the snow.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for those questions. I will bring us back to the actual agenda for today.
Hey, Emily.
Yes.
If we're still just if we can stay on the newsletter for a second, can we get a realistic update on Depot Road maybe?
Yeah, Tim, as far as Depot Road, I mean, we're starting into the final design here, and right now it's set for January next year, a letting, and then we're replacing that. We added the concrete section that at the bottom of that red line on that map headed toward I-90. That's going to be part of the project now. So they had to go out and do some additional survey work there.
Okay.
And we were also working with the stormwater issue with Clark Elementary of whether it's underground, which is what they prefer, as to an above ground pond. So that's kind of where it is. I know it hasn't seemed like it's progressing very fast, but I can tell you they are working on it. And, it's a transition from preliminary to final design.
That's great. Okay. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Other questions about any of the projects in the report? All right. Well, hearing none, we can go to the next agenda item, which is the TA set aside funding. So Courtney, are you on the call? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am. Yes, I can. So I'm filling in today to talk about the TA set aside funding round that will be coming up here this fall. It, along with the multimodal applications, should be opening here, and we should be hearing more in the next couple months about it. The big issue with the TA set aside is currently they are only funded through 2020 with the FAST Act. And so the state has said that they will give approximately $10 million to TA set aside projects for 2021. But we're waiting to see if the FAST Act is going to be extended or what will happen to see if more funding will become available. The key parts of the TA set aside application process is it needs to be for any project or activity that is not improves any sort of non-driver access. So it can be pedestrian, bicyclists, infrastructure projects for different, multimodal hubs, that kind of a thing. The minimum request for this particular grant is $50,000 with the maximum for the project being $1 million. It needs to go through the Erie MPO for submission and be reviewed by both the MPO and Lindsay here in our district office as it's being submitted. There is no local match on a TA project necessary. It's always an option, but it's not necessary. And the TA set aside funding will cover 100% of the construction ask, including inspection. And how these work, how these grants work, because they are federally funded, you as a municipality do not pay out and then get reimbursed like you would with multimodal. You will get, the contractor gets directly paid through the grant if it is awarded. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview on it. It now encompasses safe routes to school, recreational trails, TE, and the old TAP. So any of the funds that we may have had on the tip that were under those sort of funding grants, those are now all under TA set aside. So does anyone have any questions on that or multimodal? Okay.
Courtney?
Yeah.
Could you give us your phone number where we can reach you?
Yes, 814-678-7046.
7046.
46.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
No problem. There was just a round of multimodal awards. They were the 2020-2021 awards. They just came out in the last couple weeks from both Penndot and DCED. So if they are Penndot affiliated, you will be hearing from us shortly to be able to start working on those and the grants.
Hi, Courtney. A quick question with the TA set aside. So as Erie MPO doesn't have our own bucket of TA set aside, when people apply from Erie County, who are we competing against?
The entire state.
Entire state.
So it's a
Okay.
state, yes, it's a statewide. The only county in District 1 that has a TA set aside account of their own is Mercer County, because they're part of the Youngstown larger MPO. So all of the other counties and any municipality that might be going for the award is going to be competing statewide for that $10 million competitive grant program. They're focusing on safety. I probably should mention that safety is one of the big components. So if you can show that the project improves any sort of safety aspects for transportation alternative, that does help as well.
Emily, if I could add a little bit to that, I think we probably all know the value of those projects. I was looking through some tips from other parts of the state recently, EVRPC out in the Philadelphia area and SPC around Pittsburgh. Both, of course, you can't really compare apples to apples with our corner of the state. They're just, way greater population, more vehicles, more money, all of that. But those areas have a ton of a lot of TAP money and a lot of that TAP projects. So if you look through their tip, you'll see tons of trails, bikeways, bike lanes, pedestrian amenities of all kind, and it's something that's always a big topic of discussion with all of our planning partners in the Northwest. There's that desire for those projects and the recognizing the need for some of those missing links that we try to incorporate into our bigger projects where we can. But I think that, we have seen probably a little bit of a lull in applications. And I know there's reasons for that, because it costs money to design one of those projects, usually at the municipality's expense. But just a reminder, PennDOT, District 1 is here to support municipalities on that. We've got, Courtney and her staff, Lindsay DeVito, our district planner, multimodal manager, would be more than happy to go over, applications as we get ready for that program and provide, assistance and recommendations, maybe ways you could strengthen that application. So don't hesitate to reach out to Courtney and her team if anybody's interested.
Yeah, Brian and Courtney, have you looked at the bike trail project that Corey and the Erie County, Mrs. Dahlkemper's working on? Has that been put into this funding picture?
It has
I haven't
not
heard.
been, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just to say I hadn't heard. Go ahead, Courtney.
I did present at Corey's third Thursday back in April, and we discussed the opportunity of applying for funding for the downtown to connect the trail with downtown Corey.
Right.
And different options that would be available. TAP funding would be an option for those types of projects. I think I did give my phone number during that for them to reach out to us here in the district if they wanted to discuss any of the options or what they could apply for. Another option in the Corey area that was brought up was some of the sidewalk needs along 6 going out towards Walmart from the downtown area. Those sidewalks, I believe, are also TAP eligible for submission. So those might be some things that might want to be considered in that general area and were brought up.
I'll have Chuck Gray call you and discuss that.
Yep,
Okay.
that's who actually I talked to at the third Thursday. So yep, go ahead and just have her give me a call.
We'll follow up.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Emily, you're on mute.
All right, that's all I had. If there are no other questions about the TA set aside, we can move to other business. Does anyone else have anything to bring for the good of the order?
Only about the in Girard. This is Bill Kuhn. I'm sorry. About Girard with their Rice Avenue project and Route 20, where they're taking out that old hotel and making that an actual turn lane so that semis can make that without climbing curbs or taking out poles.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Bill. Yeah, so there is a current project to repave the Main Street in Girard right now, but Girard Borough is doing a master plan update right now. So trying to merge those is an ongoing process. So that's a great thing to bring up and advocate for them, Bill.
Yep, Bill, I was going to say, Bill, we just had the scoping meeting here. That's the first step in the design process. I think maybe you were a part of that meeting, maybe you weren't. I know the officials
not, but I got told about it.
Yeah, the officials from Girard Borough were all there in attendance. So, I mean, they gave us a lot of good comments, and I believe they even sent us a document with some of their needs that, they would like our project to address. So, we do have those. And like I said, we're just starting the preliminary design on that stuff. So, but thank you.
And the land bank is dealing with the demolition of the hotel.
Yes.
At this point.
Yep.
All right, is there anything else for the good of the order or anything else anyone would like to discuss today?
Okay, we'll move to adjournment then with the announcement that the virtual coordinating committee will be meeting on the 9th, June 9th at 10 a.m. You all have notices on that. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you very much for attending, and we will stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great day,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.